Okay, we are live. Here we go. Get that open here. Welcome to Movies We Like, part of the Next Reel family of shows on True Story FM. I'm Andy Nelson, and that over there is Pete Wright.
It is lurking Pete Wright.
On today's episode, we have invited costume designer Jenny Beavan to talk about Luchino Visconti's The Leopard, a movie she likes. Jenny is a 3-time Oscar winner known for period work like A Room with a View and Gosford Park, and bold swings like Mad Max Fury Road and Cruella. Jenny, welcome to Movies We Like. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here.
Oh my God, A Room with a View. I had such a crush on that movie when I was young. I mean, a huge crush on that movie. It is luscious. I loved it. I love you. Thank you for being here.
Stop now.
I still just love saying Mr. Beeb. Yeah. It's still one of my absolute favorite things.
Beeb. Oh my God. Yes, it was very special. It was very special. And it was the first one I think John and I did together as an actual partnership. I mean, I thought on the Bostonians he did more than was humanly possible, so we became co-designers on that. But Room for View's first one at the beginning of a huge partnership, and it was just one of those extraordinary films. And I think at the time we didn't think it never occurred to us it would be that successful. But I think, like a lot of things, it just needed a movie like that at that time. I don't know what else was around, but obviously they weren't hitting the mark or whatever, and you just needed some really good story with a really interesting love, whatever going on, and it was amazing. I mean, I'm terribly proud of it still. And people do say, there's a wonderful woman in Tokyo said, but I feel a bit depressed. I put on Room with a View, and I'm thinking, well, you know, if you make people happy, that's a brilliant thing to do in your career.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Very true. Very true.
For sure.
I want to talk a little bit about you getting started, and especially because Merchant Ivory ties into that so much. And you mentioned John Bright, you're the kind of a mentor who you ended up working with.
Yeah.
Talk about how all of that started, and especially, and I'm curious, as you talk about that, how early period kind of taught you about costume design and how to like work on a set and everything.
Well, in truth, I really want to be a theatre set designer. I had no ambition to be a film costume designer. And I went to the Central School of Art and Design, as it was called then, studied with an amazing head of department, Ralph Coltai, who was top of his game in set design and very sculptural, very avant-garde. We're talking about the late 60s. And but then by chance, I'd grown up with a boy called Nick Young, and he by chance got to know Merchant Ivory, and he ended up on a wonderful arts program called the South Bank Show, and he rang me and said they commissioned a film from Merchant Ivory, who he got to know through a friend. I think he was study mate at Westminster School, and this was a film they were going to make in India, and it involved Dame Peggy Ashcroft, who was a phenomenal theatre actor mainly in those days, and she was 70, but she was in the film, her character was an eccentric English art dealer traveling overland to India to try and buy or find a legendary collection of miniature paintings owned by a Maharaja in Rajasthan. Unbeknown to her, 2 other art dealers were after this, an American and an Indian, and they were all out to steal these paintings. So would I go to Dame Peggy Ashcroft and just help her put some clothes together? No money was mentioned, you know, it was just her wardrobe and mine. Anyway, second visit to her, she said she was a little concerned about going to India on her own at 70. She'd be given a first-class ticket. If she changed it for 2 economies, would I go with her? So I pitch up in Jodhpur, Rajasthan, and they're mildly surprised to me. Those were days before, I mean, telephone communication was ghastly with India. You could hardly hear anything. There wasn't even telex, you know, we were way before that. Anyway, they realised I could be quite useful. So I not only looked after Dame Peggy, her costumes, and anyone else's costumes, I looked after her wig, I looked after her. I did crowd collecting, I did props, I did anything they needed.
Yeah.
and acted in the film because the actress who was supposed to come up from Bombay, as it was then called, couldn't make it. So I just became part of the Merchant Ivory family, and they thought I was a costume designer and promptly gave me work. And without anything on my part, I moved sideways from set design in theatre, opera, and ballet, which was my world,
Yeah.
into costume design in film. And to be honest, I would still love to do theatre. And I've done a bit of theatre costumes,
Yeah.
with various people over the years, but not a huge amount. But I have stayed within the theatre bounds. But I'm a storyteller. So, I don't mind where I tell the stories, or so long as the medium I understand, which I understand clothes and I understand sets, and, I just storytell. So that's how it happened. Certainly nothing am I doing.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah,
It's a
I know.
delightful fake it till you make it story. And it sounds like you didn't even really have to
true.
fake it that much. Just show up and be artful.
Yeah.
Well, just be helpful. I think the thing that people don't really understand in costume and in the film industry now, they all do these courses at very, very good film schools, but they all come out thinking they are a costume designer, a set production designer, whatever. Basically, I think you have to learn every skill as you work your way up. So you should do dressing, you should do aging and dyeing, you should do pattern cutting, you should do making of all sorts, because you never know, it might, buying, very important area, you might within that be happier, because what I do is a massive amount of negotiation with producers and directors, as well as my creative job. And also you have to be really good at, it's almost like you're conducting the orchestra. So I have a lot of ideas along with my assistants, but I have all these sections, like the first violins, the cutters, the chief cutter, and the second violins, whoever. And I'm just basically holding it, pushing out the ideas and then conducting. And if I don't like the way they're playing, I have to adjust it. But a lot of crews are so clever, and the people who work for me are so clever. I've slightly lost the subject of where I was going, but there was a whole thing about not thinking when you come out you are a costume designer.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of it's weird, and it's about people skills. So the grander you are, and the sort of more snobby, the worse it'll be. The best thing is to just go in learning everything and then work your way up, and you may find you're brilliant at it, no question.
Yeah. Yeah.
But equally, you may find on the way you don't really want to be head banana. You actually are very
True.
happy,
Yeah. Right.
doing something incredibly creative within the department, because everybody who works for me brings extraordinary things and helps me make me who I am.
Yeah, a lot of skill, talent, a lot of just know-how in all of those different
Absolutely.
roles. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I can do most things, but nothing like as well as, of course. But if you understand how it's done, then you won't ask for something ridiculous. You won't ask someone to tailor a suit in a slurpy, silky velvet. It will be difficult, and it probably won't look that great, and it'll fall out of shape. And I mean, just simple things like that.
Well, I'm curious, like moving back from like working with your team to more like when working with, like coming into a project, when you first come into a project.
Yeah.
You've had such a variety from like the period pieces to like the fantastical projects that you've worked on. Do you find that there's still a through line as to how you approach each job, whether it's period or fantasy or just present day?
It's always the same. Read the script, do the breakdown, which is what teaches you. I go through the script, put endless post-it notes and write notes, which means I learn it. I also normally see it in my mind. I mean, some scripts are much harder to see than others, but I normally get a pretty instinctive reaction to a script.
Yeah.
And then I guess it's sort of, I mean, the post-apocalypse, the thing about Fury Road was George Miller is an auteur. He sees it, he conceives it, he writes it, he probably does drawings for it. I mean, we're working to George's ideas, and yes, we put a lot of ourselves into it, a bit like I'm saying with my crew, but he's got an incredibly clear idea of where he's going with it. So it's not as difficult as you would think. And also, he has a wonderful set of rules about the wasteland and what you can find in the wasteland and how you repurpose. And, they're all desperate for water and food. And there's that sort of famine mentality, and they become almost savage in their need for stuff, which you can see happening all the time in our current world, I fear.
Sure.
So that's actually incredibly easy in a weird way to get into his mind and understand how it works in the wasteland. And then Furiosa was obviously a little bit earlier, so we had a little bit more freedom with what they might have and what would still. But things like leather, it lasts for years. You've got certain things that will not disintegrate.
Yeah.
Even though it's presumably been blasted by a nuclear bomb. We never know. We presume.
Right. Yeah. Right.
It's such an interesting breadth of work that I'm perseverating on one comment that you just made. That's that you can see the work. And then I look at your filmography, which is, in a word, extraordinary. Just cherry picking The King's Speech, Child 44, Life, We're Going to Space, obviously the Mad Max films, Cruella. These are some extraordinary bits of fruit I'm pulling off the tree, and I just need to know how your brain works to be able to see those and be able to visualize the universe with such apparent affinity. And yet I look at those films, I would never in a million years be able to imagine that the same person had costumed them.
That's a real compliment, because I do not want to put myself into my work. I want it to be correct and appropriate to each project. But I think, I don't know, I'm incredibly instinctive. I'm not very clever. I'm not academic. I read things and I see, I sort of see the world for some reason. And I don't know why that happens. I mean, I think I'm just lucky. I can't do many things. I'm not a hopeless cook, and I play the cello unbelievably badly. But I mean, I am a storyteller. So I think that's what guides me. I'm not interested in clothes as such until I tell stories with them. Then I'll happily go any direction with clothes, including fashion, which is one of my least favorite things, in terms of what I do in my normal life. I absolutely love ceramics and early painting and curiously religious icons, although you've never met anyone less religious than me. I love books. I love, but
Have you ever, let me ask it this way. Have you ever met a project that you said no to because you couldn't see it?
Very rarely. I can't think of one offhand. I've certainly said no to things I thought were stupidly violent or, just didn't appeal. But in the early days, I had to take every job. I'm a single parent. I was living in southeast London. She had to go to a private school. There were nowadays, they're terrific state schools, but I had to earn a reasonable amount of money. I had to pay for childcare because the hours I do. So I took a lot of jobs probably I wouldn't have normally wanted to, and then ended up really enjoying them because they weren't quite what I'd anticipated.
Sure.
But I don't think there's anything I've had to work to find. Sometimes it's like climbing Everest, and you see it, but then it's not easy. And often, although I sort of see it, I then think, oh my God, I've no idea what I'm doing here. I mean, help. And then halfway through the film, you think, why did I ever think that? Actually, I do know what I'm doing. But I think if you don't think like that, it wouldn't be as good. Hopefully. I mean, I think that self-doubt is very important. And what you do wrong, you learn far more from. When you're doing a fitting and you put the wrong thing on someone, you learn more from it than when it's right. You just have to be calm about it and just keep going and work a bit harder. If sometimes I just find I sit there and I just make more notes, and that helps,
Well,
clear your brain. But
well, and I think what you said that that I have latched onto is that costume design, just like every other part of filmmaking, really is fundamentally about telling a story. Like that's your job, just like everyone else.
Absolutely, yeah. We're all,
And
and hopefully we're all telling the same story.
yeah,
And that's when
right.
it works so brilliantly, particularly with things like Merchant Ivory, because
Sure,
Jim just brought us all together. We had never had any doubt about where we were going with the project.
yeah, yeah.
And I mean, I still, for me, he's one of the greatest filmmakers, and
So
they've been
many amazing films.
remastering
Yeah.
quite a lot of the films. And sometimes John and I have done Q&As, and so we've seen the film on a huge screen, looking,
Yeah.
and you just think, how did we do that then?
Yeah,
Because we used to do it with minimal crews.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember dressing Vanessa Redgrave in the ladies' lavatories at the Wigmore Hall. I mean, never had facilities or anything. Once I'd designed it, I was part of the dressing team.
Yeah.
Undressed
right.
and dressed all the extras on Room with a View in Florence with one assistant, Elena Politi,
Oh, wow.
who didn't speak English, and my Italian was terrible. So,
Well, tying into like you're looking back since you're kind of talking about all these different films, I am curious, especially since you just received the Costume Designers Guild Career Achievement Award.
yeah, that was amazing.
Which is fantastic. Congratulations.
Yes.
But with the career that you have had, when you think back across your whole body of work, what does that arc feel like from the inside when you're looking at all of that you've accomplished?
Are you one to be racked with nostalgia?
Yeah, I love a bit of nostalgia. Don't you worry, I'm not giving you that. I feel incredibly lucky. I mean, what did I do right in a former life? Because I had amazing parents. We didn't have a lot of money. Both my parents were classical musicians working in orchestras. I was brought up with music, a very alternative outlook on life. We went to very alternative schools and had, a lot of real creative stuff going on at home.
Yeah.
No television, so we made things all the time, and so that was a blessing. And then meeting Nick Young, who got me into the Merchant Ivory scene. I mean, how lucky was that? Both our parents, mine and his, sent us to this very esoteric music and movement class, not normal ballet for us.
Yeah.
And Nick and I became good friends, and his sister Sarah and my sister Sarah Hill, and and that was just an incredible thing that he then met Richard McCrory, who knew Merchant Ivory. How did that happen? And then by my other route, I got into the Central School of Art and Design and worked with Ralph Koltai and had an extraordinary time doing ballet and opera and all sorts of wonderful theatre. But, and then the choice of the movies I've worked on, the directors I've worked with, how did that happen? I mean, the luck, and I've done Disney projects, but I've never had to do a real, what they call them, a real life thing from an animation, which I've always done origin stories with Disney, and they've always been interesting. And I mean, apart from a slight glitch on Cruella, they were, they've been great. And I don't know. And now working with Alex Garland, I'm just blessed. And the last thing I did was with Nick Heitner. My God, what an amazing, I mean, the luck is just ludicrous.
Well, we should talk about the choral a bit, since that's the project you just worked on most recently. This is a project, a film that's set in 1916, and in a kind of a small mill town in England, as World War I is going on, and people are coming and going from the war. And I'm curious, because it is such a different feel from aristocracy, like in something like A Room with a View or any of these other kind of Merchant Ivory films. This is very ordinary townspeople. Do you find you approach things differently when you jump into period research, when it's like mill workers versus people of like
I mean, you just research that area of life, and it's an amazing script by Alan Bennett, who's one of our national treasures and one of the greatest writers on earth. But he comes from that area. His father was a butcher in Yorkshire. He knows those people. and he wrote this beautiful script which is anti-war, anti-discrimination, and so powerful without being over the top. It's very laid back and has the most wonderful music in it, which is very dear to my heart. Anything with music and I'm there. But I mean, it's very easy to research because in 1916 there were quite a lot of photographs, and there was even cine footage of mill workers coming out of the mill from even earlier. So that wasn't a problem. And the other wonderful thing was we had an incredibly small budget. I mean, we made that film on £8 million, which is, probably less than the catering budget on Furiosa. But in 1916, in a mill town in Yorkshire, nobody had many clothes.
Yeah.
So legitimately, I could give it truth, but actually everyone only had 2 outfits.
Yeah, that helps. Yeah,
it helps in every way. And I did say to Alan Bennett, I said, because I met him when he came up to watch some filming, I said, it's so brilliant that you wrote it then. He said, oh yes, he said, my father was a butcher and he had 2 suits. One was my suit and the other was my other suit. And I just thought, it's the most beautiful story ever. And, and so it was completely right to do it like that. And of course, I worked out of Cosprop, John's company in North London. And of course, they had the perfect, and we had to make a little bit because we used a real amateur choral society in Yorkshire to fill in our actors and things. And people are bigger now, and we just ran out of stock. So we made some very simple dresses, which we accessorized. But that was it. Other than that, it was just Cosprop. Gotcha. And all the men's suits, red suit, they're all just stock suits. But their stock is so wonderful. You can find gems in it. And of course, it's not new. It doesn't look brand new. And, it's worn and it's got a life and it's perfect for that. So I was fantastically proud of it. But I also think it's a beautiful film.
It feels like the perfect prequel for Swing Kids.
Swing Kids.
Another movie with young people in nice suits and a lot of music, and it's just a little bit later in history.
Yes, just a little bit later. 37, 38?
Yeah.
It was just pre-39, I think.
Yeah.
In Prague. My first film in Prague. Oh, God, I love Prague. It's a wonderful city. Wonderful to work into.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I imagine that's a part of any of these projects where you're traveling and filming in different parts of the world and finding things that fit that. And even I imagine for a story that takes place in this mill town, just finding things that feel like they fit, right? That feels like it's of this world. I was really taken by Ray Fiennes' suit because it just felt like it was part of him. Like it seemed so right for him,
Again, it was, I think somebody looks after me above. I'm not religious, as I said, but somebody, because that suit was there. And every time I looked at it, I thought, And then Ross, who does the men's stuff there, said, I think it'll fit Rafe. And of course it did. It also had although it's an English suit, goodness knows, I think it's a real one, but it could have been made in Germany. It just could have been. So he's come from Germany. You assume he's probably bought some clothes there because he was successful there. And then again, the hat, although it's not anything stupid with, feathers in it and all that, like a Tyrolean, it still could have been made in Germany. And Rafe, he wears things very well too. He just adopts them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's wonderful. He is wonderful.
Right. Yeah.
Do you know, it makes me think of other movies where he dresses suits well. And I immediately think, how is it that you have escaped being roped into doing a Bond film with your career? The only thing on your IMDb that is Bond related is a Nokia commercial. How is that?
Oh yes. I suddenly asked to do that with that lovely actress whose name completely escapes me. Yes, I've absolutely no idea why I was suddenly asked to do that, but I was.
Lashana
I don't know if
Lynch,
it ever came up.
Lashana Lynch, is that who you're talking about?
Yes,
The
that's the
actress?
one. Yeah, absolutely. I've no idea if the movie thing ever came out, but it was quite
So
fun
funny
to
to
do.
me.
I mean, I've done all sorts of. I did the British Airways safety video If you
Yes.
travel on British Airways, you'll see, people putting on safety harnesses and all that, wearing full period costume. And it's hilarious. One of the most fun jobs ever with Sharon Maguire.
Oh man, that is fantastic.
It was hilarious. No,
That
honestly,
is hilarious.
as I said, I've been incredibly lucky. I've twice met Sam Mendes for Bond, and he's twice decided I'm not the right person. I'm actually quite grateful, but he's always sent me the most lovely handwritten note, and I just thought, oh well, I think Bond's. There's the problem with that films like that and Star Wars and things like that. There's so much producer interest. I won't say interference, but interest in them. And I don't think it's very easy. And you have a huge amount of product placement in a Bond.
Yeah.
And actually, I enjoy watching a Bond, but I don't think I enjoy doing it. I hope I do a good job, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And so I'm very happy with certain films that haven't happened in my world, because I seem to have done and still be doing really, really interesting.
For
Possibly
sure.
smaller scale, but I mean the one I'm doing at the moment's huge. But
You said you're working with Alex Garland right now?
Garland, we're doing I'm sure it's out there. I'm not saying any secrets. It's based on a computer game called Elden Ring.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which I've never played a computer game. I've never heard of Elden Ring. Why me? But I'm having a wonderful time. I mean, it's pretty tricky following the game look, which on an anime drawing can wear the most ridiculous outfit and do somersaults. I'm putting things like that on real actors, and they've still got to do somersaults. It's like this, but it's a challenge, and everyone on it's so lovely that you just give it your all. And
well, and you've got such a, I mean, I don't know who the vast majority of the cast, but I think who's reported that you're working with folks like Kaylee Spaney and Ben Whishaw and Kit Connor. Like this is such a wonderful slate of young actors. I imagine willing to do anything for you.
They're absolutely fantastic. Each one that comes in is almost more gorgeous than the one before. I mean, I'm now in love with so many people. It's kind of got out of control. They're all safe. Don't worry. They're safe.
Oh, man. Too funny.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, but, so it's interesting because doing a project like this, I mean, you've never played video games or anything. And so are you just... how are you going about doing research? Is it pulling up images of the video games, or is it just coming from Alex?
Easy. Just go on YouTube. You can see every single.
So you just watch all the playthrough videos.
There's so much stuff, and you can not only see every aspect of the game, all the characters. There's an amazing concept art book. One of my assistants, Billy Temple, is the most phenomenal researcher. We also have an expert in Australia who's a complete Elden Ring, immersive, and he sends us things if we want. He can sort of get screen grabs, and so that isn't a problem. I mean, it's taken me forever, and I still don't know who's related to who and why, but Billy does, so that's fine.
As long as they know, right?
Yeah, and
somebody
also,
knows.
There's certain characters that, as the player, you can then adopt their costumes if you win, or don't ask me how it works, but I really don't need to know that.
What are we going to do for the last half of this podcast? It was just mechanics of Elden Ring. Now we have to scrap it all.
Sorry. Yeah. I mean, I've obviously signed 100 NDAs, but nothing I've said is not incredibly out there. And
for sure.
I don't think my name's on IMDb yet, but that's when that's not a problem. But it is an extraordinary, and at my stage of my career and my age, to be asked to do something like that is such an honour. And Alex Garland is an incredible writer and director. And my sense about the script, he's been working. I don't think he's found it easy. But the one we've got at the moment is so good and relevant and way beyond just the game. So
he's working this one. He's written it with, or did I don't know, did he write it with George Martin, or did they
No,
do
I don't
passes?
think so. I don't know who I mean, to my mind, he's written it himself. I think he talks to a lot of people and listens to a lot. I mean, he's even told us all as a group that he isn't as experienced in filmmaking as we are. He's certainly never done anything on this scale. And if we think he's doing anything wrong, we have to tell him that, that in a nice way, that might be better done. And suddenly, I'm one of the ones that has done extreme conditions, extreme locations, in extreme costumes on environmentally sensitive areas. So I know when they said they were going to do this, this, and this, I didn't think that was a good idea. And I thought, actually, the actor isn't going to be able to move in the costume we have to put him in if we're following the game look. The weight of it has to be strong because of what he has to do stunt-wise in it.
Yeah.
And he isn't going to move off the spot on the location they're telling me about. And so I, put my hand up and said, excuse me, I think that might be a bit tricky. They have changed the location because I think when they heard the real truth of it, and we're in a remote place where you won't have, you can't take a four-wheel drive or anything. So you've got an actor in a lunatic costume, because that's what it's like in the game, having to walk up basically a volcano. I mean, give me a break. Let's get real here, kids.
Yeah.
And anyone can write anything, but you try and put that into operation. Yeah. And I suppose thanks to George Miller and all those films, I really have done some pretty extreme locations.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah. Well, and it's also nice to hear that all of this, like, they're thinking practically as opposed to we can just create it in CG and do that later. So it's nice.
Trying to do as much as possible in camera. They've already got an anime, if you think how the game is. It is animation. They need to do as much as possible on real actors.
Yeah.
But equally, the scale of the actors, it's worth having a look. I mean, have both of you played it?
I have played it.
Yeah, so you know what, they're massive creatures and huge costumes, and they're all as demented as each other. Right. So you're doing this, and sometimes you look at the costume, and the actor's face is tiny in it, or the character face, and it's like, we're just trying to do the spirit of it as faithfully as possible, and then create some other wacky characters Alex wants some other bits, which is great for me, very creative. But equally, the challenge of putting real actors into these crazy clothes is quite fun.
We'll
do our best. That's all I can say.
Well, yeah, I mean, what you get away with the visuals in games in general, just accentuating so many, elements of physicality. It is always a shock when movies get it right. It is never a shock when they don't. So it's heartening to hear just how much, you all are putting in to making it work.
Massive amount of care is going into it. The result will be the result.
Yeah.
I mean, that's beyond our control, really.
Right.
Where are you in the process of you're actively shooting now?
But no, we don't shoot till mid-April, but we are prepping, making. I mean, they're wonderful at casting huge amounts of people really well in advance, and we were allowed to pre-prep to get the concepts together early. So when we started prep, which isn't nearly long enough, really, in truth, for something on this scale, we had an incredible set of drawings and mood boards and all that, and knew quite a lot where we were going to get stuff, even though it was only three of us doing it at that point. And then we got going at Elstree Studios about second week in January. Again, it was weirdly late, but I mean, it sounds like a big budget, but a huge amount will go on visual effects, even though we were trying to do it in camera. Visual effects that will naturally take. Anyway, I don't know.
And this is a project where, I mean, presumably, like, all the costumes are made from scratch, like, or are you finding bits and pieces of things?
No, we're finding.
Okay.
There's two credible costume houses in Spain, Paris and Cornejo, who bought all the early medieval, like most things, in the game, it is a sort of medieval fantasy. Lord of the Rings started the whole thing off. So they've got an incredible stock of medieval that we can't afford to make everything. We certainly don't have time. We're making as much as we can to enhance our rental costume, to give it our look, and to take it away from, you won't be able to say, oh, it's 1540, or oh, that's, you know, I'm trying to give it that timeless fantasy feel that the game has, and be inventive with certainly some of the crowd costumes. We have quite a lot. There's a huge amount of soldiers and armies, and again, we found great base armor, and we will enhance it with our tabards and what have yous.
All the good what have yous.
Yeah, well, yes. Well, who knows? I was like, well, but it's just trying to be inventive within a curiously limited
Wow,
Extraordinary.
How big is your team on that?
Well, it's not huge. Hard to say. The armory department's probably it's gone up to probably about 12, maybe 15. The dyeing department just enlarged itself today to about 9. The makers we're bringing more and more trainees and students who are really exciting people to work with.
Nice.
That's probably gone up to about 15-ish. And then we've got quite a lot of buyers, because there's loads and loads of stuff still to buy. And specialist stuff. Now, you know, we need that fabric, and can we find this? And so it'll probably end up at about 50.
Yeah, that sounds about like where you're.
Yeah.
So okay.
I don't think it'll get bigger, because I don't think we can afford it. But you know,
that's a good team though for a fantasy film. So,
but we're very schedule heavy up front, so we've got to load it with people now, and then we can probably ease off. But some of it we do in Iceland much later in the year. So we've got a bit of time then, and we haven't even started on those costumes in it. That will feed in. But it's all arriving any minute now from Spain, because we sorted it all early in the year.
Wow.
But huge. I mean,
exciting.
Big.
Yeah, no, and just another example of the types of the variety of projects that you
totally
working on. So that's fantastic.
Totally.
Well, let's shift gears and talk a little bit about The Leopard. This is Visconti's film, and I mean it's a very fascinating film that is about the period in Italy when things are shifting as far as like the I can't remember the name of the period, but when it's moving into
Unitarianism or something, isn't it? When they unify.
Yeah, I was going to Risorgimento, or I'm trying to think of the Italian word.
Yes.
Yeah. And as everything is changing, and I think it's just a lush film, beautiful performances, and the way it captures. And I'm curious for you, kind of, where did this film enter your life, and like what made it something that really meant something to you?
My feeling is, and it is a long time ago, so I'm not 100% certain on dates and things, is that it was it was made in 1962 and was being talked about, and I went to college in the late 60s, and my memory is that actually a group of us from college went together to see it in a screening cinema in Soho, because it was on, and it was one of the things we all went to see, all, you know, those weird, wonderful Czech and Polish films, because it was sort of, but I think we all went to see The Leopard at that point. And it was just astonishingly beautiful as a film, and fascinating with the politics, and which I didn't really understand to this day. You know, I still have to sort of look up what was going on. It's not a period of history any of us know. We don't study it. So it was very different to anything else I'd ever seen. But also, I think I then probably saw it again later on, and John Bright, my mentor and dear friend, was always talking about it with the fact that Piero Tosi, who did the costumes, was only 36. And in the 60s, it was often, when you saw period things, particularly if they were made in England, they looked very 1960s. The fabrics were nylon. There weren't wonderful, true fabrics around. There wasn't silks and all the interesting things we actually have now, far, far more. And so if you look at particularly English BBC television, the Forsyte Saga or something in that, I think that was black and white, it's still got a very modern look, and they had very modern makeup and hard hair and, all sprayed. And then you saw something like this. And yes, there was a little bit too much eye makeup probably for 1860,
Yeah.
but it's still astonishing in its truth and the beauty of the fabrics he used and the absolutely accurate period cut. I mean, he was obsessive, Piratesi. I don't think he was happy because it was never perfect enough, but he was one of the most incredible costume designers ever. And again, his range is pretty enormous. I don't think he did post-apocalypse, but he certainly covered a massive thing from very, very poor Italy to Medea, and just great range and loads of Verdi operas. And he was, I mean, I think if you ask most costume designers who their sort of hero is, it will be Piero Tosi. So that was a huge thing for me in the film. And it's
There
stunning.
is no shortage of sweat, I did notice. And
Good
I
makeup.
mean,
well, I think it was probably pretty hot when they were shooting.
Yeah, it's so hot. They clearly worked it into the story.
Yeah.
It was hot where they were, and it was fundamentally challenging. It is such an interesting thing because you're right. It is a movie of extraordinary beauty, and the costumes, the number of costumes,
amazing number.
Right.
And they would have all been real. They wouldn't have CGI'd, they wouldn't have done enhancement then. They really dressed all those people, and they really had them out on the set.
Yeah, extraordinary. And in the period of existing sort of between, it feels like this, I don't know, like they're calling on this sort of Victorian, like European style. And yet we're at the end of that period, right? We're about to not be wearing those kinds of dresses so much anymore.
No, we are. I mean, 60s was the huge crinoline, and then it collapses down into the 70s, and then up at the back in the 80s, and then down again in the 90s. I mean, there's always a flow in space, but it was still very excessive clothing. But the 1860s is the huge crinoline, because you've come out from the 50s, obviously come up from the very Regency and then into the sort of Jane Austen-y narrow, and then it starts to go out, and then the shoulders go out, and then it goes, I mean, it's always a great flow if you look
at it is so much easier to see and hear when you talk about it in terms of women. But what about the men? There were some interesting things going on with the clothes with the men. Some of them are just, you look at, there's a dude in a suit. But there's such a wide swath of what we see in terms of regalia, because there's a lot of dudes in military suits.
Oh yes, you've got all the red jackets, the Garibaldi,
and
all the Well, that's just what they wore. I mean, that's not terribly difficult to research. What was amazing was the amount. Did they make them? I don't know. I mean, they're probably still in Peruzzi or Rancati, no, not Rancati. They've been probably in Peruzzi if anyone's got them. Possibly, or Torelli. Torelli may have them.
I think these suits are still hanging around somewhere.
Well, it's only the 60s. I mean, we're not even 60 something, 89, only 60 years ago. They'll still be somewhere. And they do look after them in Italy. They're probably in Torelli, because Piero Tosi was part of Torelli, and I think Torelli made most of it.
Fascinating.
But I mean, that's how we do it. Is like, for me, Cornejo and Paris have bought all the medieval films that were made in Spain, because they have much cheaper warehousing outside of Madrid. So you go about 40 miles or so outside of Madrid to these incredibly dull industrial estates, and within these huge warehouses are masses of costumes. We can't do that in England. We don't have the space. We couldn't possibly afford it. And they're like €4 a square meter, and we're like €40 a square meter. I mean, it's massively different. And it's expensive enough, period costume, anyhow, because you have to maintain it, you have to look after it. So I think in Italy, they would have, and also they found more costume houses in Italy, and they're just about still keeping going, because all the theatres and opera houses didn't have their own wardrobes. They rented or got stuff from the various costume houses rather than make it in-house. So there are big stocks abroad, more than we have here in England. Cosprop's the place for things like the coral or merchant ivory.
Yeah,
Brilliant, from about 1750 to about 1950. That's their really strong. So
that's their range. Yeah.
masses of these period films we all love come from there, even if they're made in America.
Interesting.
You all come to us, which is wonderful. But I think with the Leopard, he would have just looked into the peasant characters and the it's like storytelling. I mean, he was a consummate storyteller. So the mayor and everyone slightly pompous, and he'll have just found the right look for them.
Well,
and there may be sort of things you can see in painting and that spark your imagination. And
well, and I definitely feel that with like Claudia Cardinale's, like when we first meet her, right? Like she comes in and she's in that that white lace ball gown when we first meet her, which, I don't know. I guess now you have me on this thing about like how it's all about storytelling, because I think that that's an outfit that is doing some psychological work as far as it's her mark into this aristocratic society, but also she's kind of this interloper coming into it. And I think that's an interesting element that we're getting, because that ties so much into what you're just talking about like how it's all about the storytelling.
Well, that's, I think, when it works. There are certain films like Cruella. It'd be a shame if people didn't notice the costumes. It's about costumes and fashion.
That's her job, right? Exactly.
Like the Leopard, although it's an incredibly beautiful period. So, you're going to make people look incredibly beautiful in those clothes.
Yeah.
But also, what's so clever with what he did was they're phenomenal costumes, but you still look at the actor. Yeah. Whereas for me, it doesn't work, is when you can see a consciousness in the design, and somehow the designer's in there going, look at what I can do. This is my mark. And you think, do you know what I mean? But some things need, Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, would be very disappointing, but it didn't look amazing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, great, for sure.
And actually, Paul Taswell's work on Wicked, and it's so extraordinary, so detailed, makes me almost exhausted, but he's such a dear. And, there's stunning ideas and stuff in there. Yeah. It's so, and very appropriate because it's a musical, basically. Yeah. I don't know if I'd be able to do that as well as, I certainly wouldn't do it as well as Paul does it. I mean, he's just incredible. And then Kate Hawley, who just won the BAFTA, brilliant work on Frankenstein. Again, it's not period accurate, but it's period sensitive, and I just think she did beautiful stuff on it. I was absolutely, really, really impressed with her. Very interesting, very different look at it. And I'm thinking, I'm not sure I'd be able to do that, but I probably would, because you'd be given the right instruction by the director. But even so, it's like, wow, that's amazing.
That's an interesting thing that I don't think I've actually heard anyone say. It's not necessarily period accurate, but it's period sensitive. And I think that's a great way of describing all of these different projects, because I think that you're obviously tapping into that too, even in something like Cruella, which
definitely
is a period. It's a period film, right? But so you're reaching back to a period of time, but you're also expanding and playing.
It was. Yeah, exactly, because that's the character of Cruella, and that's the nature of the story. And, you're working her towards Glenn Close at some moment, that's where she's going to be. But you just do what's appropriate for the film. And yes, it wasn't, I remember the 70s pretty well, actually, I'm terrified to say. It was a fascinating period, very interesting clothes. I was quite interested in clothes in those days, and used to go to Bieber, and I could never quite afford it, but I used to look longingly at stuff, um, and there was this wonderful. It was a very innovative period in some ways, but we. It just felt right for the film, what the way we did it. And she's a wannabe fashion designer. She does her own clothes. She's jolly good at making and designing, and a little bit punky, a little bit, edgy. And that's how she developed. And then the Baroness was a hoot, because you just knew she was slightly outdated and slightly beyond her sell-by date. But it was Emma Thompson, and we found this sort of asymmetric thing, and that just became her style. And it was sort of almost luck. Threw something at the stand and it landed asymmetrically, and then off we went. That was Emma.
That's amazing, like finding a little clue like that.
Yeah, you find clues, and you have to be open to everything.
Yeah.
It's a funny little observation that in a movie like Cruella, you're looking at performances, costuming that has to live up to the scale of the performance, right? And those performances are very big. And I look at the Leopard, and I look at Lancaster could have been one of those as the prince, right? He could have been one of those over the top, and yet I think he plays it as reserved as he is outfitted to be. At no point does it feel like he's a pretender.
No, it's very true, isn't it? And there's a kindness, because it's such an interesting role. And the fact that he sees what's happening, but he can't quite give into it because he's so tied into his world and his aristocracy and what he feels is right. I mean, I think it's amazing. I truly haven't seen it for so long, and it's really making me want to. I just haven't had time to re-look at it, so I'm not really I don't know why. It was just one of the films I chose, and you lot chose that one as the one I talk about, and it's like, ooh. Because, yes, the costumes, no question, but in general, I can't even be specific about them, were just extraordinary and true and much realer than anything I'd seen in the cinema or on television in that period. And the idea it was made in 1962 and then shown in 63 is so bizarre when you look at the beauty of the production design, because in England it was still all painted sets, and it hadn't got that amazing reality and
the scope. The scope too, because like that, the entire last hour
the
almost of the
45
movie.
minutes in the ballroom,
the ballroom. I mean, you've got 400 costumes in there with all these extras, so many people, and it's all like as authentic as you could get, because that was what Visconti wanted. And so you just feel like you're living in that space, and I think that's the key is whether it's Cruella or the Leopard, is finding the pieces that make it feel authentic to the story that we're telling. Because I bought this entire world. It's just everything is so real.
Even the sweat, especially the sweat.
The sweat, yes. Probably shouldn't talk about sweat too much. Perspire.
It is. I'm sorry that you're right.
Glowing,
I'm inelegant.
I believe, is what women do.
I will say that last word is. In terms of a film, at just over 3 hours, it is that last bit is an untidy segment in terms of pacing. I found it a little breathless in its overall pacing. Yeah. Beautiful, fascinating period of history, and my God, it is very long for the story it wants to tell.
Oh, it is very long. No, I know. I mean, that's my problem with films at the moment, which I love the choral because it's much shorter. But I think and when you're working in the industry, we do very long days, and I just can't watch film at the moment. I watch crap television. Celebrity Antiques Road Trip is a particular favourite, because I don't have to think.
Yeah,
and I do
you get to turn it off.
And I go to the theatre if I can, or concerts, but I just can't be doing with these 2.5 hour films, which are all fine, and I'm sure they're very good, a lot of them, but at the moment I'll work, and they can.
There will be a time.
Yeah, at some
cinematic
point. Yeah,
reflection.
yeah, absolutely. I'll catch up, but
Yeah.
There you go.
um,
There you go.
at the
Yeah.
moment it's all a bit much.
Well, I mean, it's been wonderful chatting with you about you,
Uh,
your career, the coral, the leopard, all of these different things. Thank you so
yes, the
much for
choral is
joining us.
very dear to my heart, and I tried to promote it to my best ability because, in truth, Sonny didn't do a lot and didn't send out screeners to the people who, and you couldn't get it in India or in Australia, you know. So
Yeah.
it's really weird. They just didn't bother with us, and yet,
It
to
it
me,
is
Ray Fiennes is better than I've ever
yeah.
seen him. You know, I
Yeah.
just think he's wonderful.
It is so bizarre that it took us scheduling you for this show for me to
Mm.
realize that movie existed.
Existed. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I know we made it on no money, um, and they obviously didn't have money to distribute it. And I think maybe Sony had other films they thought it might interfere with, like the thing with Ethan Hawke. Sounds rather good, Blue Moon, or
Blue Moon. Yeah.
you know. So yes, of course, but it it is a beautiful film, and it's not perfect, but I can't. I mean, the amount of people I know who've seen it more than once because they really loved it. But again, in England, we did. It was around more. It was
Yeah.
in cinemas, and some cinemas it's still showing. You know, but
Well, I'll say, like,
rest of the world.
I hadn't heard that piece by Elgar before, but
Oh
it
right,
like pulled me right in. Like, that music was just so beautiful. And like when you
it's
have the nurse and the
phenomenal.
soldier singing,
Oh yes,
in
yes,
that,
yes,
it
yes,
just
yes.
really
No, I
really
think
gets
Nick
you.
just felt if we just did it, it would be. He wanted a little bit extra. But what
Yeah.
was extraordinary is when I first knew it was Dream of Gerontius, I tried to listen to it, and I thought it was the most boring thing I'd ever heard because it goes on and on
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
you get to that bit.
Yeah.
And then more recently, I was sort of fiddling around on YouTube, one of my faves, and I found a recording made in 1968 in Coventry Cathedral with Sir Adrian Boult conducting, Peter Pears, who was an amazing tenor, Benjamin Britten's partner, uh, Janet Baker and John Shelley Quirk, all of whom I heard when my father was a cellist in the Philharmonia, and they all sang in things like St Matthew Passion, and you know. So
Yeah.
I knew all of them, and I thought, oh, I'll just give it a go. Oh my God, it's brilliant. And
Huh.
Peter Pears, with quite a reedy tenor voice, is so perfect as Gerontius. I've become completely obsessed. So it's now my sort of go-to on YouTube.
Well, I'll
But
have to look for that version and include it
yeah,
in the show notes so that people can check it out. Because
it's 1968, Adrian Boult, Coventry Cathedral, and Peter Pears is Gerontius. It's for me, it's perfect.
wow,
So now
awesome.
I'm absolutely addicted. But yes, do promote it because it'd be lovely if, you know, I mean, everything that's going on at the moment,
Yes.
it's all in there. And awful discrimination. And
Yeah.
of course,
Right.
it was all totally under par. But the very subtle way Alan Bennett writes, and it's not in your face, it's not flung at you, it's just, this is how it is.
Yeah. Right. Right.
I,
Well, we appreciate you coming here chatting about all of this stuff. Do you have you're on Instagram, right?
I
Do
am.
people? Okay, that's a place people can go find you and check out what
Yeah,
you're up to?
Jenny Beavan Designs. I do it, but my sister actually posts it because she's a graphic designer. So
Oh, nice.
she sort of says, I think we should do them in this order and let's do this, and variously puts on slogans or whatever, or this works the montage gen, or, you know. So she does it, but I write it and I do it. And at the moment, obviously I can't do anything about Elden Ring.
No, yeah,
Sure.
You know, and I haven't had anything recently other than the choral, and then odd things like this actually would be quite fun to pop
yeah.
on Instagram if you want to send me. I mean, I could take a photo of myself. It's quite hilarious. Oh look,
Perfect.
oh that's lovely. Oh look, here we are. Hi, guys. Yeah, because
Fantastic.
she's great, and sometimes I've got you know, other obsessions like gardening and the foxes in my garden and my daft cat, and
Oh,
you know, but I
They
don't
pop in there
really
from time to
do
time. Yeah.
things I eat. I always find that a bit odd when people put on a nice cup of
Oh,
coffee and think, whatever. But yeah,
yeah.
particularly in the garden. But at the moment, it's so wet here. Oh, are you?
Mm.
No, you're in LA, aren't you?
I'm in
No.
Arizona and Pete's in Oregon. So
Okay.
yeah.
Oh, Oregon.
Yeah.
Right. I was just thinking, because New York's really getting it at the
Oh.
moment, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh my goodness,
Getting
yes.
blasted.
Yeah.
I've got a friend here who's supposed to go back on Wednesday. I don't think he probably will. So
I am.
hopefully
Yeah.
him.
Good luck.
Yeah.
goodness.
I mean, I wouldn't want to fly in that kind of snow.
Oh no, that's
It's not
daunting.
a wise
I mean,
idea.
trains aren't
No.
even running, so I can't
No,
imagine the
and they've
planes
stopped
are
cars, haven't they? So they're keeping the
Yeah.
roads clear for
right.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Gosh.
Well,
quite something
Well, this
else.
has
Well,
been
we-
an absolute delight, Jenny.
Oh, thank you.
Seriously. Our
I've
great
really loved it.
honor.
Sorry, I couldn't talk more about the Leopard, but
oh
you know,
no.
it
Hey.
is an amazing film and should be seen. But
Yes, absolutely.
anyway, it's really lovely to remind myself of it. I should have watched it again, but it has been a little bit short on time. I mean,
No worries. No
because
worries.
I've been
Well, when you're busy, we get it. We totally.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm lucky
You
enough
end up.
to be busy. So
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
totally fantastic.
Well, let's do our little the little bonus round. Are you good
Okay.
with that? Still good
Yeah,
on
yeah,
time?
sure.
Okay. So I have the list of films, so we're going to go through, and Pete and I will just alternate reading a title, and then
Yeah.
just give us like a one or two, like why you love this so
Okay.
much.
Yeah. Really, really hot list rapid fire.
Okay, right, here we go.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, we are here with Academy Award-winning costume designer Jenny Beavan for a quick speed round on a few other movies that she loves. We can't cover them all in the main show, but we still want to hear why each one makes her list. Are you ready, Jenny?
Yep.
All right, let's dig in, starting with The Remains of the Day.
Oh, one of my, I think, the most complete film. Visually, our costumes are very laid back. It's not one of our spectacular ones, me and John, but it's the completeness and the relationship between Tony Hopkins and Emma Thompson. Just the most incredible tension and connection.
Okay.
Beautiful film.
How about The Coral?
The Coral is one of the most wonderful films I've done recently. I think on par with Merchant Ivory. It's absolutely anti-war, anti-discrimination, but in such an unpushy way. And I think it remains with you. And of course, the addition of the music is always amazing. And as for Ray Fiennes, I say he outrafes himself. He's so good.
Outrafes
Excellent.
himself. They need to put that on the movie poster.
Why is
They
that
should.
not
Honestly,
around?
I could have. Yeah.
Oh,
No, his
goodness.
subtlety in a part that he could have gone over the top. The horror of listening to these dreadful singers and everything. But it's just done so, and it's so beautifully done. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. How about The Gathering Storm?
Oh, so the story of Churchill realizing what's going on and trying to make it known and think. There was something about that. I could watch it over and over. Albert Finney was incredible, and the story, which is true, is so remarkable and just one of those ones that worked.
Okay. How
Yeah.
about Monsieur Hulot's Holiday?
Oh, well, it's one of my father's favourite films, and I remember laughing like a drain. Of course, we had to go to the cinema to see it. We're talking the 50s, 60s, and oh, I did love that film. Very, very funny.
Yeah. How about La Grande Illusion?
That's one of the greatest anti-war films ever made by Jean Renoir with Jean Gabin. And again, one of my father's favourite films. So I wouldn't have seen it without him. And I think it might have been on television when we got a television in the late 60s. One of the sort of BBC Two or whatever.
Sure.
And I was just knocked sideways by it. And the stupidity of war and the relationship between Jean Gabin and the German officer in the camp. It's a remarkable film.
Showcasing your incredible range of interests, we go from that to Duel.
Oh God, Jill, that's a man in a car and a truck, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
unbelievable. Spielberg, absolutely extraordinary, and then you see just a leg, I think, of the driver of the other, but it's terrifying. I mean, how did he do it? It's just so clever and extraordinary. Yeah, Jill is a great film.
Yeah, absolutely. How about Babe?
I want my mum. What did she call you, dear? She called us all the same. And what was that, dear? Babe. Oh God! Well, being a vegetarian and an animal activist, Babe is the perfect film for me. And as for those sheep, I mean, the whole thing is just genius. Dear George Miller again. You
Yeah.
see, he also has
Yeah.
quite a range. If you look at George Miller's oeuvre, or whatever you call it, Lorenzo's Oil, Babe,
Yeah.
Happy Feet,
Happy Feet. Yeah.
Mad Max. Yeah, it's not unusual to have a variety in one's work. So, Babe is, I love Babe.
Miller's a guy who earns his murderous chaos with a lot of goodwill in
Yes,
terms of
exactly. Oh,
family,
he's one of the
delightful
nicest
family
men on
films.
earth. He's the
Yeah.
sweetest man you ever met. Just has horrible ideas. Very
Okay.
unfortunate.
Well, and so on the note of Miller, here we are with Mad Max. We could
Ah,
have been talking about Mad Max.
well, that completely transformed my career in that although I'd started to do wider things like Anna and the King and Alexander, I think the idea of my going into the post-apocalypse was, and Ian Smith, who was producer on Alexander, was producing Fury Road in Australia, and the costume designer had always worked with George, Norman Morrisseau, brilliant woman. I think just didn't want to spend another year of her life in Namibia. I think she was older than me and possibly not very well. And so they're looking for a designer. And Ian knew I was quite good in deserts, Alexander, and on quite long, drawn out projects, and just suggested I should go and meet George. So I got flown out to Sydney, met George, who just said yes. And it was like, yeah, okay, fine. And I mean, just one of the most amazing experiences of my life. We were in Namibia for nearly a year, which was
Incredible.
amazing. And yeah, I'm terribly proud of that film.
Were you already a fan of the Mad Max films?
No,
that had
I'd
come
never
before?
heard of them. I had to watch them. I had to watch them. And the first one, that extraordinary tipping point of civilization, we had here in London when there were riots in, I can't remember, must have been sort of around about 2010-ish, 11. And we had these terrible riots. And I came back to London, having been in the West Country. And it felt really odd and I didn't know what was going on. So I turned the radio on and found the whole place was rioting. The police had shot a guy in North London who they thought was armed. And in fact, I think he was, but it caused absolute riots countrywide. And so I get back to my house, which is not on a main road, but it's on a busy road and it's completely quiet. And I didn't quite know what to do with my car. I don't think I could put it up the drive because there was builders or something. So I thought, oh, what do I do now? And I thought, I'm not going to be not in my own house. But everything was dark and quiet. So I went in and I looked out of the windows and nothing. And then suddenly a little gang of guys in hoods, young men, went running down the road. And then a little later, a car came up and sort of did a U-turn, and people threw stuff in it and drove off. And it was just like Mad Max. You just didn't know what was going to happen. It was a tipping point. And I was on my own in my big house, this big Victorian house, and I kept the lights off. And in the end, I just thought, well, this is ridiculous. I'm going to get to bed. So I locked the doors, and and the next morning it had quietened down. But it was the most incredible. I just thought, oh my God, George Miller absolutely got that feeling in the original Mad Max so perfectly. And I've just lived through it. A weird, weird moment. And that was when I'd been asked to do it. And it was like, gosh, we're going to do something quite important in a funny way.
Wow.
So there you go.
Well, let's shift total tones and go to Sense and Sensibility.
Well, you have to love it, don't you? I'm a Jane Austen. I love Jane Austen. I can reread Jane Austen. Her incredible awareness of her period, which is so unusual because normally you see it when you're in the future, you look back but she was living in it and she could just see all the human nature, human relationships, everything about humanity is in her novels, and it was so beautifully cast, and the Emma Thompson, Hugh Grant, and that Alan Rickman, God bless him, and Kate. I mean, it's just almost perfect period film. for me. And
truly.
I do think it looks great. I think we had a wonderful cameraman. But I mean, the whole thing was just a joy.
It is just beautiful. I have to say, though, this next pick, my wife is a speech language pathologist, so I have to say, The King's Speech.
Oh, well, there you go. That was a treat. Again, just, you know, one of those things you just feel so lucky to do. And Colin was so perfect. And as for Helena Bonham Carter, who I've known since she was incredibly young on Room with a View,
right.
obviously, I mean, she's so brilliant. Whatever she does, she's absolutely brilliant. And I love dressing her. I just love dressing her. She's so funny. She's a friend. And yeah, I love that film. Just love it. I can watch that over. I mean, a few of my films I can watch. My sister gets really cross. She says, "Oh God, Sense and Sensibility's on again," and I have to watch it. It's, you know, on some, I don't know, streaming, whatever. It's really cross because she knows she can't go to bed and not watch it. I'm rather proud.
That's awesome. My goodness.
You are one of the rare few who come on to this show and talk about how you actually watch your own work.
Oh, am I?
Yeah.
I don't watch all of them, and not that often. But I mean, recently, definitely with Merchant Ivory, we've been doing some Q&As and seeing the remastered, which is very exciting, actually. But yeah, I mean, I've done some films I'm truly proud of, but also just really enjoy the film.
Yeah.
And you can always see things you think, oh God, I wish I'd, done that differently or whatever. But that's fine. You get over that. Just get over it.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jenny.
Jenny, thank you again so much.
Great pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me. I hope it goes well with your audience.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, hold on real quick. I'm going to stop our recording here, and then we just need to